Ladies and gentlemen, football fans of North Central Ohio, you are now entering the Friday Night Pigskin. So get strapped in, lay some tide, and get right for big hits, top plays, and highlights. All coming your way from under the Friday Night Lights. The most exciting sounds and sights, gridiron action to serve your viewing delights. Let's go. Friday Night Lights. Get hype, it's Friday night. Friday Night Lights. Get hype, here we go now. Friday Night Lights. Get hype, it's Friday night. Friday Night Lights. Get hype, here we go now. He's at the 10, the 5, touchdown! Throws it over the middle and he gets absolutely sauced. Friday Night Lights. Get hype, it's Friday night. Friday Night Lights. Get hype, here we go now.
Fakes the handoff. Bauer looking. He's going to throw
He's
it down
got
the
a
middle. Has a man.
guy!
He's got Wenger.
Oh, my!
Down. Go to Knights into the flag in the
Strike
end zone.
one.
Just like that. It's 6-0. Did I mention they're happy to have Jax Wenger
Holy
back?
smokes.
It's the Friday Night Pigskin, presented exclusively by our good friends at Spherion, Mid-Ohio. And if you are as hyped as those boys on the call right there, you know it's already going to be a great Friday night. My name is Brian Skowronski. We had 6 undefeated teams walk into the ring tonight. All 6 would remain perfect, including those Ashland Arrows. Put a whooping on Mansfield Senior. Been a tough year for the TY Tigers. You just saw those Northmore Golden Knights. We've got highlights coming up from them and 3 other undefeated teams that moved to 7-0 on the night. But we're going to begin where I was with the moving pictures tonight over at Bob Wine Field, where it was homecoming night for the Lucas Cubs. Tipping point game with Amanda Clear Creek coming over to their place, looking to avoid losing 2 in a row. Both of these teams will show you how it all shook out tonight over in the Lucas Valley. As mentioned, they're celebrating homecoming, and just 2 plays in, they're celebrating a fumble recovery. Raiden Caudill with the strip. He would come up with the football. The Cubs are in business right away. They would drive down to the doorstep of the end zone, but they cannot deliver the 6-point package. Logan Stevens with the strip. He comes up with the recovery as well to get the football back for the Aces. We'll fast forward early second quarter, no score, but Tommy Stay about to change that. 19-yard zigzag into the end zone off of the pitch. 7-0. Amanda Clear Creek out in front on the road. 4th down now, Cubs looking to tie it up, and Bobby Grover throws it in the dirt off the pressure from Dylan Dreyer. So they would turn the ball over on downs in the ensuing Aces possession. Bodie Martin dives in on a 4th and goal with just 33 seconds remaining before the half. It's a 2-score lead, 14-zip, Aces in front. After a Hayden Dunn field goal made it 17-zip on 4th down, Dan Hawkinsmith gonna escape out of the scrum, and he cues the fireworks. Skirting into the end zone, 26 yards out. The Cubs would miss the PAT, but it's 17-6, trying to make it a game. Amanda Clear Creek, though, would answer on their very next drive. Great vision from Martin, his 2nd of the night. And the Aces would end up going on to win their first victory on the road of the season, 24-6, your final, as Lucas falls for the 2nd consecutive week. And just 6 points for the Cubs over their last 8 quarters, including that shutout loss on the road last Saturday at Calvert. So they're reeling a little bit. They're still in playoff contention, of course. And this is a team we've seen. They got in with that 4-6 record a couple of years ago, made some big-time noise, went 3 rounds into the playoffs. So for Lucas, everything's still out in front of them. They've got 3 winnable games down the stretch. 2 of those are going to be at home. Looking for them to try to make something happen here, try to turn the corner. It's just not the same type of Cubs team that we've seen the last few years, where they just bully you up front, and then they've got a couple of dynamic backs. Definitely rooting for the Cubs to try to get things going. And for the Aces, the law offices of Stevens, Martin, and Stay, over 200 rushing yards and 3 total touchdowns for them tonight. Really impressed with what I saw from Amanda Clear Creek, a team that was 0 just 2 years ago, only won 3 games last year. They're starting to hit their stride, getting above 500. They've got a big one coming up next week. So I'm going to keep an eye on the Aces and see how things go for them. A Division V school trying to get back into the playoffs for the first time in a while. A team that goes to the playoffs pretty much every season, well, all the time under head coach Trevor Klein, was at home tonight, that being the Hillsdale Falcons. And they had a team that's been struggling here the last couple of years and this season as well, in the Wayndale Golden Bears over at their place, which is where Jonathan Langdon was. And I mentioned we had some unbeatens looking to stay perfect. The Falcons, they kept that goose egg.
Well, here's your first one of the night. Hillsdale, big win for them, taking on Wayndale, and we're going to get through these highlights. So Hillsdale, they come out here tonight, a bunch of cheerleaders in attendance, big crowd on hand. And the first touchdown here is going to be by Hayden McFadden, who strikes just 5 plays into the opening drive for the Falcons. We jump all the way to the second quarter, a couple of punts, a turnover as well by Wayndale ultimately leads up to this Owen Sloan 8-yard rush to the right side. And Sloan, that would be his only touchdown, although one of his lesser games, but to his standards, he's been spectacular, just 1 touchdown for him. Here's the response from the Bears, though. They really made this a game in a couple of segments. In the second quarter, they take it down to a 1-score lead with that Ethan Garrett rushing touchdown. We move later on, though, in the second quarter, able to stack it on before they go to the locker rooms. Hayden McFadden breaks a tackle, outruns everybody else, and makes it a 21-7 lead going into the half, his second touchdown of the half. And then we move to the third quarter where Wayndale starts to make it a little bit more of a game. WCAL, you can't look at those records too much.
Okay.
And so they had a drive, an opportunity to maybe even tie the game, but an interception. Brock Bauer, he hadn't hit the end zone since week 1 where he had 3 scores. He finally breaks that here, hitting pay dirt, hitting the painted grass, and scoring a touchdown on the defensive end of things. But then they would kind of just make it a night for him, give him a nice little easy handoff, 1-yard touchdown for him on the motion sweep, and he puts the bow on everything. Final score, they would miss the extra point there. 34-14, Hillsdale 7-0 on the year, and they're looking just like they did all of those other weeks, looking spectacular. Kind of last week, it was a little bit less of an offensive performance, just 14 points. That's low for their standards, but they're back at it here against Wayndale, putting up big numbers.
The bad weather last week had major impacts. We saw many upsets go down. Not really this week. The favorites getting it done, including Hillsdale tonight. And over on the other side, that pick 6 looked like it ended up being a big difference maker. So a new quarterback actually into the lineup for the Golden Bears. I know it took you by surprise.
Yeah, so we were getting ready for a freshman quarterback to come in, and Maddox Kidd had played all of the previous 6 weeks, but week 7 they went for one of their receivers. They went with Matthias Raber, had a pretty good game, but just a couple of, so here's the thing, Wayndale had some really good drives. They just wouldn't be able to finish them off. They had to turnover on downs when they were on the Hillsdale 5 on their very first possession, and then from there just wasn't able to finish things off. They had some big completions, some of their bigger receivers, just not able to finish things, and that really ended up leading to the Hillsdale just running away with this game at home.
But I kind of hear some Eminem ringing in the backdrop. Guess who's back? Back again. Brock Bauer's back. Tell a friend. Well, you're going to be my friend right now, Jonathan, because he's a top play nominee this week. You gotta love converting some defense to some big time O.
And the second, you're going to see this a second time. Bauer runs all the way to the end zone for the pick 6. That's just a play that he needed. And also the touchdown at the end to give him 2 touchdowns on the day. But he just really needed a moment like that to kind of break out. He had been struggling, hadn't been finding the end zone. Of course, still making catches, making big plays, over 200 yards receiving. But just for him to find pay dirt, especially this late in the season, especially looking forward to that Week 10 game against Norway, you want every weapon that you have to be ready. And that's exactly what Coach Klein was able to do to get Bauer's confidence up this week.
Well, you talked about weapons. They have way more of an arsenal than just Brock Bauer, putting up a phenomeny this week as well.
Yeah, so Brock Bauer was a phenomeny. We'll get to him next week, but Hayden McFadden was one of the studs as well. He had 2 touchdown catches in the first half, couple of receptions as well. You're going to see one of these that wasn't a touchdown, able to keep the foot in. Hopefully, I wish I would have been able to find that other angle to take out the scoreboard, but he did just barely get the foot in. So he was able to get that, and then this little slip screen, nice play design by Coach Klein, and Hayden McFadden does the rest.
I've got to see him a couple times with my own eyes this season. A lot of dynamic guys out there when they get the football in their hands, and they got the quarterback to do it. Kel Lewis, just a sophomore, don't care about that. He plays well beyond his years. I think the Falcons are the real deal, and right now, of course, sitting on top of the WCAL standings, and my anticipation is they're going to stay there until we get to that Week 10 matchup that you were kind of salivating over. It will potentially we get a couple of 9-0 teams.
Yeah, I think so. And the top 2 teams right now in the standings, Norway and Hillsdale, those 2 are probably going to stay there. I don't, with both of their remaining schedules, I don't think there's any sort of test that will kind of slip them up before Week 10. So if they both do go through unscathed, as you see the standings right here, if they both go through unscathed, that'll be a classic for sure.
Downton and Norway still yet to play. I believe that might be coming up next week, so that's a huge one. The Bobcats didn't play tonight. There was an accident, I believe, with their band. They ended up calling off the game against Chippewa. Norway's going to be a heavy favorite when those 2 take the field tomorrow night, though, so there's a lot of potential and build-up for that Week 10 matchup for the Falcons and the Bobcats, and we'll, of course, have it live and free for you, Jonathan. Do you see any reason why the Falcons aren't the team to beat, though, in the WCAL this year from what you saw tonight?
Well, it's just because they haven't played Norway yet, and Norway handled them easily last year, if I recall.
That's a fact.
And Hillsdale, they're just going to have to kind of play with that chip on their shoulder. They know that they're the better team. They've got the better record. Of course, Norway's already got a loss under their book. So Hillsdale's got that confidence. They built it for sure against Wayndale, getting a bunch of their skill players ready. So that they're going to have another opportunity next week playing Northwestern. You see them there bottom of the standings. So that's going to be a good pick-me-up game for them. Owen Sloan, expect to get him more involved next week because he was a little bit more quiet to his standards this week. But yeah, sky's the limit here for Hillsdale, and I'm excited to see what it ends up being for them.
Sky's the limit for the Falcons, man. All right, thanks, Jonathan. We're going to go from the WCAL to the OCC down in Columbus. I'm pretty sure the biggest conference in the entire state. And Big Walnut tonight looking for a 6th consecutive win after an opening night loss against an undefeated team. They have looked really, really good. Worthington Kilbourne also been playing some pretty good football. We have Bryce Coder down in the Eagles' Nest taking it in tonight. I think a lot of juice behind this one, Bryce. Of course, a couple of teams that have been trending in the right direction. But, ooh, fly, Eagles fly, man. It feels like the big birds of prey were just getting it done tonight.
Yeah, you are right about the OCC. 32 teams in that conference. We were talking about it tonight. There's 4 or 5 divisions within it. But it was homecoming night for them. And boy, did they show out. Estimated attendance was between 4,800 and 5,000 people there, which is incredible to think about for a school like Big Walnut, really turning the people out. When we were there for Veterans Night, they had 2 paratroopers land on the field. So homecoming night, I thought it's got to be something big. They had a carnival in their parking lot. So really taking homecoming festivities seriously. And boy, did they turn out for a game tonight.
So they had the party going on in the parking lot, and then once the game got started, of course, the Eagles fans were really enjoying what they saw. Let's spin those highlights and show you how it all boiled down.
Starting things off, Kilbourne able to get far down the field quickly, but Brody Hatfield coming up with the interception. Nolan Burley will convert after that drive for a 3-yard rush, but there's more trouble for freshman quarterback Jackson Sabo as he throws another interception to Brody Hatfield, his second of the night. There were 4 total interceptions thrown by Sasbo. But Brody Hatfield on the other side of the ball, breaking away from those defensive backs for a 59-yard touchdown to extend the score to 14-0. Stumpf again looking for another receiver. This time he finds Owen Pollock, the tight end, who converts for his 2nd receiving touchdown of the year. Then just to top things off, Jace Murray rushes into the end zone. 4 different people scoring touchdowns tonight for the Golden Eagles, and you can see there wrapping things up, Jake Neff with a 32-yard field goal. They had him attempt a 52-yard field goal earlier on in the night, and he barely missed. It had the distance to be able to make it, but it was just offline to the left. It was amazing to see.
2 young quarterbacks in this game, a freshman and a sophomore. Growing pains, of course, for the young freshman out there with all those interceptions. But, you know, the youngster for Big Walnut, I mean, he's been playing some really quality football here. I think starting to hit their stride midseason form.
Eli Stumpf, he was also a standout on the basketball team as a freshman last year. Super athletic kid, and that truly is like the story of this Golden Eagles team, is they have a lot of young athleticism available to them. Guys like Nolan Burley, who's only a sophomore, Eli Stumpf, who's only a sophomore, Brody Hatfield, who's only a junior. And that really is their bread and butter, is just out athleticizing the other team.
As I mentioned, the only one loss so far, and it came clear back in week 1 to Bishop Watterson for Big Walnut. So this team, they're rocking and rolling. They're soaring high right now. Huge one coming up next week, though, Bryce, a game that you're going to take in. They got to go on the road over to Westerville North. This is a big rivalry game. What's your anticipation for this one? I think the Warriors are 4 or 5 wins right now in the season, and it's their homecoming night as well.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be an exciting one. When talking to Brody Hatfield, they were really excited as a team that they were able to open up the passing game as much as they were able to, rather than just having to rely on Nolan Burley to exert his will against defenses. So they feel good coming into this game, but of course, on homecoming night, that's really going to be a tough crowd to invade.
Right now in Division II, Region 7, Big Walnut sitting at number 2. A couple of more wins obviously puts them in the driver's seat to host a week 1 game, or I should say a week 1 in the playoff game in week 11. What is your expectation for this team? Still a little ways to go. I think probably the biggest game on the calendar coming up next Friday for them. What do you foresee this team's future if you have a little crystal ball being? Do you see them second round of the playoff, third? Is this a team that's even got the type of potential for a regional championship type of run?
I definitely think they have the momentum to make a pretty good run into the playoffs. Maybe 2-3 wins into the playoffs could really do them good. They have that athleticism. They have the skills to be able to do it. I think it's going to come down to the depth of it all. And they've really worked on that tonight. Jace Murray, who scored a touchdown, a 20-yard rushing touchdown. They have him as a backup in the depth chart, but they got him a lot of snaps in the second half, and I think that's only going to benefit them because they're putting more and more guys on paper that defenses have to prepare for. As far as getting deeper and deeper into that state tournament, I think that's still to be shown, especially with how young this team is. Sometimes those things can become more and more challenging, but I think it's going to be great for them.
And I think we have a look at that Division II Region 7 that we can pull up and we can take a look at real quick, Bryce, and kind of see what's below them right now. And actually, they've got Big Walnut at the top of the stack right now in Joe Idle. Ashland right behind them, an undefeated team that has been rocking in the OCC here in and around the Richland County area. And you look at some of the other teams hanging out there, St. Francis, DeSalle. So big-time football when you get into the Division II ranks. Oh, by the way, the Massillon Tigers, the defending state champions, are hanging out too. And they've got some big games ahead of them, but you anticipate that they're going to be one of the teams to beat, probably have a lot to say when that region's all said and done. So this is going to be a pretty fun one, I think, Bryce, when we start getting the matchups and we see who's going to be competing in Week 11. There'll probably be a couple upsets, I would suggest, in that first round.
I would think so. They're a fun team, and this is a really fun group of teams to watch as well.
All right, thanks so much, Bryce Coder, down there taking in our OCC action tonight. Appreciate it, Bryce.
Thanks.
So we're going to keep the theme going with these birds of prey. You just saw a falcon get a big-time win. You saw an eagle in a red uniform. How about the Eagles? And I'm not sure what color uniforms they were wearing tonight, but Colonel Crawford, typically gold, maybe black, on the road against a team who's in first place right now in the Northern 10, Seneca East, coming off that big upset where they ended Cary's 27-game win streak within the conference. How would they defend their home turf tonight in Attica? Let's all find out together with the moving pictures. We'll begin here, and it's a 50-yard tutty. This is John DeGray from Holt to make it 7-0. He'll take it into the end zone, and it is Colonel Crawford up in the second quarter. Seneca East, though, would answer. Parks to Zach to makes it 7-7 as they're all tied up. And then Seneca East would end up taking the lead 14-7 right before the break. Ethan Schultz, a 1-yard touchdown run. But then the McMonster got loose. They let him out of the cage. 87-yard touchdown run for Connor McMichael would even things up at 14 apiece midway through the third quarter. and you won't like him when he's angry. Once the McMonster gets out of control, he can't be stopped. But Seneca East, the Tigers, they got some dudes of their own. You're going to see my guy, Mr. Young, get loose in the end zone. This dude has been so good. Taylor Young, 4-yard touchdown catch from Nicholas Parks would give them the lead back at 20-14. They missed, though, the PAT. And now Parker Weithman with the interception is going to set up what would turn out to be the game-winning touchdown with just 3 minutes to go. McMichael into the end zone from 6 yards out. The Eagles do make the extra point, and that is how they would end up winning it, 21-20. So Seneca East no longer at the top of the Northern 10 standings. Let's take a look at them now. Only one team remains undefeated within the league. That is the Mohawk Warriors. A bit of a surprise team for quite a few of us here in North Central Ohio to see what they've been able to do. You knew you couldn't count out Colonel Crawford. They seem to be a trending team right now. Could be one of the teams to beat within the conference. And certainly I think Carey will have something to say about it when it's all said and done. They're still 3-1, just a game back. But right now it is the Mohawk Warriors sitting at the top of the heap, and coming up next for them, they've got Upper Sandusky, but then their final 2 games at home against Carey, and then they travel to Seneca East for a ginormous Week 10 matchup. That is going to be a ton of fun to watch over these next 3 weeks, but right now the driver's seat belongs to the Mohawk Warriors. We're going to take a quick time out. When we come back, we have got your winners for the Friday Night Phenom and your top play of the week from week number 6. Stay with us.
You have better things to do than to job hunt or scramble to find your next great hire. So let Spherion do it. We say local is our superpower because we live and work where you live and work. We know the Mid-Ohio job market, and we're locally owned, so you won't find a partner who's more engaged and literally invested in your success. If you're ready for something better, start with Spherion. Visit us online at midohiojobs.net or call 419-747-7479.
More than Crown, we are the real people behind Crown CDJR of Dublin. Every member of our sales team is dedicated to providing you an excellent customer experience.
Find the right vehicle for you and your lifestyle is a Crown Chrysler Jeep Dodge Ram today, the better way to buy.
Instead of paying for some big-name spokesperson, Kasasa Checking gives that money back to you in cash rewards. In fact, you just bought me this cup of coffee. See how that works? Amazing! Free checking, cash rewards. Take back banking with Kasasa.
Welcome to Richland County's first artificial intelligence ATM. If you car dance to the song you're listening to now, I will give you $50. See, that's something an ATM can never do.
Oh my gosh, are you serious?
Oh, we're serious.
Gosh, that's awesome. Thank you.
Thank you. We hope your day is a little bit better today.
Yes, thank you.
It was kind of a funky week 6 on the gridiron with all of the wet and wild weather that we had going on, terrorizing North Central Ohio, but that did not stop some of our area athletes from putting on some crazy, amazing performances. But we always put it into your hands to decide what was the absolute best of the best, and your top play of the week from week number 6 would be Miles Marshall busting through the line, and he would zip his way through the sideline. 75 yards later, he would end up in the end zone as Centerburg takes down Cardington Lincoln at home. A huge victory in the heart of Ohio. One more time, look at the shake and bake in slow-mo. It's even hard to slow down his feet, so we'll cook him back up. Congratulations, Miles Marshall, your top play of the week. And of all the best individual performances, you, the people of America, decided that Shane Gardner was the absolute best. And look at this move that the dude put on. All he needed was 2 catches to do 56 yards plus a couple of tutties as they knock off Mount Gilead, that being the Dogs, in one of the most desirable places to take in a Friday night football game, Chet Looney Stadium. Congratulations, Mr. Gardner. You are our Friday night phenom from week number 6.
And speaking of the great Chet Looney Stadium, it was host to one of the biggest games in North Central Ohio this week. 3-0 in the KMAC Northmore. Number 6 in Division 6 taking on the Bulldogs, 3-0 in the conference. The lone 2 unbeatens in the conference remaining. And let's just look at the highlights right now. Military night at East Knox, actually, that's Centerburg, and Mount Gilead. We'll get to them momentarily with Zach Truax, but first. Anyway, we'll get to that highlight just in a second. I have Zach Truax standing by, ready to talk with me about that. But Northmore East Knox, 2 unbeatens left in the Knox-Morrow Athletic Conference. Northmore knocked off Fredericktown and Danville in the last 2 weeks to knock them from the unbeatens. East Knox had some wins to stay unbeaten. After 2 non-conference losses, they lost to Crawford and to their week 1 opponent. But let's start off. A.J. Bauer, after a 3-and-out, to a wide open Jack Swinger. You saw that as the call of the night. 51 yards, 7-0, less than a minute and a half in. Move to the second, and Bauer with plenty of time will find the Tavon Austin of the KMAC. Cohen Becker on the cross. He's got wide open space and pulls the jitterbug on the defender to get into the end zone. It is 14-0. 5 minutes later, and they're going to pull the Joker out of the Lucas playbook. Carson Campbell on the reverse with great blocking from the O-line. 10 yards out, 21-0, 28-0 at the half. 35-0 now. East Knox trying to get something going. The receiver can't bring it in, and Wenger is in the right place at the right time. He fumbles but jumps on it. And how many times do you see someone make a big defensive play and immediately do it on the offensive end? Well, you're going to see it here. Wenger, wide open as he'll ever be, 25 yards, 42-0 is your final. The Golden Knights, another statement win to take sole possession of first place. The number 6 team in Division 6 probably going to jump up there. So exciting. Even Josh Banks over here, just speechless on what happened. Just a complete dominance of the Golden Knights on this night. A.J. Bauer, who will be our Phenom nominee, one of multiple, but tonight he's the only Phenom nominee. 13 of 13 passing, 341 yards and 4 touchdowns. Just as good as the Hillsdale Falcons right here. Another unbeaten in state-ranked squad, but A.J. Bauer, 13 of 13, 341 and 4 touchdowns. Was just great on the night, and only 3 quarters of play as well. This is the 5th game out of 7 that he has not played a whole game, because that's how many times the Golden Knights have gone on a running clock. A.J. Bauer was perfect on the night. Jack Swenger, you'll see him in the Phenoms on Monday when we get our full list. He had 7 catches for 203 and 3 touchdowns. And big play Bo Landon, 3 catches for 85 yards, nearly got it into the end zone twice. But A.J. Bauer, one of the Fee nominees that you will see because he had one of the most perfect nights. And a cool story about A.J. Bauer, too. He was our MVP, but he immediately asked Ken Parrott, can I bring my offensive line, too? Because they're the reasons why we're up here right now. Perfect way to end that. So the Golden Knights staying unbeaten. 3 more wins. They got Mount Gilead at home. You'll see it on the OH report. Cardington at home. You'll see that one on the OH report. Then at Loudonville. So a very favorable finish to their schedule. If they can take care of business, it may be the first ever 10-0 season in the history of Northmore football, and the first time since, I believe, 82 or 83 that they've won a conference championship. Speaking of the KMAC, and you saw a little clip, a little tease, I would say, of the highlight. The Centerburg Trojans, the second best team in the KMAC. They went to Mount Gilead, a team, high hopes, good running attack. What were they able to go to Mount Gilead and pull off the victory? Well, let's get to the highlights right now. First possession, Chris Marshall on the little bubble screen, and watch him go to work. Miles had the top play last week. Well, Chris, maybe a top play nominee right there. 84 yards on that beautiful Bermuda grass that we call the fifth fairway at Augusta. It's 7-0 Trojans. Still in the first quarter here coming up, Blaine Ball is going to say, you know what, I'm just going to get on the rushing action as well. Fakes the reverse, and he's going to cut his way up and dive into the end zone. That makes it 14-0 in favor of the visitors. And there's your top play winner, Miles Marshall, in the second quarter, 6 yards out, makes it 20-0, extra point missed. That is the score there, but still, in the second, Mount Gilead gets on the board with that rushing attack. Cole Fricky, the quarterback, keeps it himself, makes it 20-6 on the missed extra point. And there go the lights at Mount Gilead, one of the coolest parts of the venue. Now to second half action, Chris Marshall once again is going to pull one in, this time from 36 yards out. Got behind the defense, easy score. It's 27-6. And then Chris, well, he's going to get in on the rushing action as well from 3 yards out. 34-6 in favor of the Trojans, but we are not done. Carson Trainer is going to get himself a highlight on that fake, a little Lucas-like action there. Gets to the pylon. He's in. It is 34-14. Hit the lights one more time. Chris Marshall not done though. He's going to pull in this 38-yard pass, and again, behind the defense. Look at the lunge into the back corner of the end zone. 40-14, extra point blocked. And then our final highlight of the night, the offeree from the West Virginia Mountaineers, Jackson Bollinger. 89 yards, the kid can block, the kid can catch, and the kid can run. 46-14 is your final. The Centerburg Trojans, who I think are the second best team in the KMAC by far, big win against Mount Gilead as they continue to roll. And I am now going to welcome in the man that called that game, had a lot of fun calling it too, Zach Truax. And Zach, just first off, your thoughts on the Centerburg Trojans.
Complete team. Very balanced on offense. You saw last week they could beat you running the ball. This week they proved they could beat you throwing the ball. Blaine Ball is great on the rollout. They especially rolling to his right. If he rolls to his right, you better roll your safeties up over the top and find Mr. Chris Marshall deep, because that's where he's throwing the ball. And if everyone's covered, he will take off and he'll make positive yards with his feet. I came in tonight and I said, Centerburg needs to institute the Marshall plan. Chris Marshall, Miles Marshall, and create balance. But then Blaine Ball just had a fantastic game, managed it well, got the ball to his playmakers, and when the play broke down, he made plays with his feet. You know, that long touchdown right there by Chris Marshall, that's following an interception he made on the opening drive by Mount Gilead, where they were driving and they were down to about the 35, had a good drive on, went for it on fourth down, and he picked it off the 20. 2 or 3 plays later, he takes it to the house.
Yeah, this is a Centerburg team that, with those plays like that, they took Northmore to the brink, and a play here, a play there. It might be Centerburg. That's the team at the top of the KMAC. Now, I know you're a wrestling guy, Zach, so yes. I want you to break down the linemen from Centerburg. They're the ones that were able to open up for that running game last week, and they were able to give Blaine Ball some time. Just, if you can, break down those big uglies, those guys that are wrestling around in the trenches.
Yeah, Centerburg, I came in really highlighting the Mount Gilead offensive line and defensive line, because they are massive. They are big up front. If I had those dudes up front, I'd be running the ball with Cam Vickers up the middle all the time too. But really impressed with the Centerburg line, offensive and defensive line. They held their own against a physically bigger team and blocked well enough to give Blaine Ball enough time to throw, and then played well enough in the interior to slow down Cam Vickers and that running attack by Mount Gilead, which they love to just chew up 4 yards at a time. But yeah, really impressed with Centerburg, their offensive line, defensive line, and their entire team for that matter.
And you talked a little bit about Mount Gilead. You're expecting their length and everything. What were some positives that you got out of them? They had a couple. That line did block for a couple big touchdown runs. But what were you seeing from Mount Gilead that they could use as positives for the last 3 games of the season?
Well, I gave the Hillsdale receivers the nickname the Three-Headed Monster. You could give that nickname to the 3 running backs from Mount Gilead too: Cam Vickers, Carson Barnum, and the trainer kid. I think they each had close to 100 yards tonight on the ground. Each of them 100 yards, close to 300 yards rushing on a very good Centerburg team. They shot themselves in the foot. That's what Mount Gilead needs to stop doing. They need to stop shooting themselves in the foot. Costly penalties at the wrong time, turnovers at the wrong time, negative plays at the wrong time. If Mount Gilead could figure out how to not beat Mount Gilead and just concentrate on beating the other team, you know, they're sitting, I think, 17th place in their region. They go from the frying pan to the fire. They've got Northmore next, but then they have Cardington and then they have Loudonville. Those are 2 winnable games if you're Mount Gilead, and top 16 make the playoffs. They may get that unenviable spot of number 16 playing the number 1 seed, but at least you get some week 11 football.
Yeah, and that number 1 seed could be the Northmore Golden Knights, who they will see at the Castle on Friday night. But let's talk about Centerburg. They've got a chance to move up in the playoff ratings in that same region, Division 6, Region 23, as Mount Gilead and as Northmore. They go to Danville next week. That's a big one in the KMAC. Then they host East Knox, and then the Fredericksburg game against Fredericktown. Is this a situation where you think Centerburg may be favored in this, to where they're going to put themselves in a position to be playing at home in Week 11?
Centerburg has got some athletes on the edges in in Chris Marshall and the Harris kid. The Harris kid can fly. He's a big kid. He has a great catch radius, and he can absolutely fly. There's two long touchdowns. The Longer kid had a long touchdown, and if you watch Chris Marshall's long touchdown, both time Harris comes from nowhere and runs into the end zone, escorting them in the end zone. So he can fly, and he's got a great catch radius. The best throw of the night and the best catch of the night was one that went out of bounds. It was in the end zone in the corner. Harris was covered, and ball threw a beautiful back shoulder pass to him. Harris caught it, just couldn't get a foot down in bounds. Was really impressed with that throw. I think, you know, if you look at East Knox, if you look at Danville, those are the 2 toughest tests they have left, I think. And those teams are pretty one-dimensional when it comes to moving the ball. And Centerburg is not one-dimensional. They can absolutely play on the edges. They run a 5 wide. All their guys can catch. Cover Harris, cover Chris Marshall. Stop the run with Miles Marshall, and oh my gosh, you've got a D1 commit catching the ball in a one-on-one situation with probably a sophomore defensive back. Forget about it, you know. So they've got a lot of athletes on the edge. They're just big enough in the middle to hang with you. They got a great decision maker at quarterback. You know, Centerburg is going to be a problem, and you'd hate to be. You know, I can see them moving up. You know, if something weird happens and they're not in that top 8 where they're going somewhere for a playoff game, they're going to ruin someone's playoff run at home because they're.
Well, I mean, we're hoping they play on the other side of the bracket and we just get a Centerburg Northmore rematch for a regional championship. I mean, honestly, 2 teams that are really good. I know Northmore didn't have Jack Swanger when they played each other, but Centerburg has those. They have the ability to be maybe a 7 or an 8 seed and knock off maybe a 3 or a 4 seed or 2 seed, something like that. So it'll be interesting. Absolutely.
Their 2 losses are to, a bigger division Ontario school that's undefeated. And
They're undefeated. Yeah, both
and
undefeated.
Northmore and Northmore is the class of the KMAC. Those are their two losses. And Northmore was, like you said, anyone's game, a one-possession game, and they were tied 7-7 with Ontario at halftime. And Ontario's got an Ohio State commit playing quarterback.
Yeah, let's show the KMAC standings real quick here as we finish things up here with Zach. But like we said, Northmore is the cream of the crop. They have risen to the top, 7-0, 4-0, state number 6. They might move up. But then Centerburg plays the other three teams the last 3 weeks of the regular season. So we may see Northmore and then Centerburg. And then after that, it's up for grabs who wants to be that third spot.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. I think you said Northmore, they run through the three cellar dwellers there at the end. They're unless you get like another hurricane type weather and they have some injuries or something, they're not going to stub their toe the rest of the way out. They're just too well coached and they play too fundamentally sound. I hate to put the jinx on them, but I'd be surprised if Northmore isn't undefeated going into the playoffs. If I'm Northmore, I really hope someone knocks off Centerburg before they get to me, because Centerburg looks good and they're improving.
All right, Zach, amazing job as always, buddy. I haven't been able to talk to you. I'm pumped that you're able to be calling some football this year, other than our wrestling stuff that comes on in the winter. But thank you very much for joining us once again on the Pigskin, buddy.
Hey, I love the fact you guys have me. I said, wrestling. I love wrestling, but man, you want to get my blood pumping, turn me loose on Friday Night Football. The lights come on, the bands tonight. I cannot talk enough about the environment, the atmosphere at Mount Gilead. Man, that is exactly what I remember Friday Night Football in the 80s and early 90s when I was a kid. That's exactly how I remember it. The bands, both bands, and Centerburg's band was fantastic, by the way. East Knox's was great. Centerburg's band was fantastic. The bands were great. The atmosphere I said East Knox, I meant Mount Gilead. The atmosphere at Mount Gilead was second to none. I spent the first 25 minutes walking around that field, that Bermuda grass. It's incredible. My stat guy, Rich Sturry, plays a lot of golf, and he said this is nicer than 99% of the courses I play on. And the facilities, just hats off to the folks at Mount Gilead for giving their youngsters just the kind of place that 90% of small school kids dream about playing at home. Hats off to them. Really impressed with Mount Gilead. Listen, you want to send me back to Mount Gilead to call a game, you just let me know. I'll go back the next week. I've had so much fun down there. I know they came out in the short end of the stick, but man, did I have fun at Mount Gilead tonight.
That's awesome, man. And thanks for joining us once again. Zach Truex, everybody, our OH reporter. That'll do it for the KMAC Corner. It's going on 12:30, so you know what time that means? It's MOAC time. Let's head it back over the ski.
Yeah, there was one king right now sitting on top of the KMAC standings. 2 entered the night at 6-0 within the MOAC, and we thought there was going to be a third team that could really be a contender within the league, that being the Galleon Tigers, until they met the top 2 teams the last 2 weeks and got outscored 84-6. So that's why we sent Shane Young down to Highland in Marengo tonight to see if it was bounce back season for the Tigers. But as soon as they saw you walk over to the sideline, the Tiger Killer, I think maybe they were like, just might not be our night again.
Yeah, I feel like, when I walked in, Travis said that I am just jinxing the Tigers every week that I go and watch them. And clearly, it must be just me. But yeah, we're about to show you how they took their 3rd loss in a row this season. We start off with a Braxton Prosser pass, and it's going to be picked off by Colton Stover, the second pass of the game, also the second play of the game. The quarterback / DB, the senior, is going to start this game off with a 8-0 lead after they complete the 2-point, and then we're going to get a Zach Church rush right up the middle. He's going to run a dude over, and they're going to fail the next 2-point attempt, 14-0. Prosser's going to keep here, and they're going to get some points on the board, this all being in the first quarter. It's 14-7. And now we're going to get a Colton Stover to Caden Reichenbach dart with a small window that he barely fits it in, and it's going to go all the way with a late second quarter touchdown. It's 21-7 going into half. We open up the third quarter with Braxton Stuckman rushing right up the middle, make it 21-14. And then it's gonna end at a 24-21 Highland victory, which I was very surprised about. I definitely saw Galleon coming in here, maybe bouncing back, but I feel like these two losses from the last 2 weeks has definitely derailed them.
We saw the Tigers coming out of the gates. They were dropping nearly 50 burgers on 3 of their first 4 opponents. Now, granted, they were N10 opponents, but they beat Winford, Cary, Upper Sandusky. Then in their MOAC opener, they trounced Clear Fork over at their place with 41 points. Where's the offense all of a sudden for the Tigers? 3 weeks in a row, they were held to the 6 points the last 8 quarters combined. Only go for 21 tonight. I really thought with Prosser, 3-year starter, running the show, great weapons on the outside. Some of them are young. They got some freshmen out there. But what did you see, Shane, that prevented them from having another explosion where they were in the 40s?
It's mostly, I'm going to go back to these last 2 weeks. I mean, it's just Braxton Prosser. I don't think these 2 weeks, past 2 weeks, including this one, he's just been in a sluggish, he just hasn't really been able to get the offense going. I mean, he's just throwing some really bad picks and ended up kind of, basically telling what the game is going to be for the Galleon Tigers.
And then for Highland over on the flip side of things, getting healthy, they get a 24-21 win. They've got River Valley, a team that allows a lot of points coming up on the schedule, even though they got to go over to Caledonia and play that game before they get Clear Fork, who just 1 win so far on the season. What are your expectations for Highland moving forward before they get to Ontario in Week 10?
Beating one of the top competitors in the MOAC is definitely going to give them a lot of momentum. I think they definitely have a good shot at going in and beating River Valley next week. But this Highland team, when I was interviewing Colton Stover, he was like, it just feels good to get a win against one of the top competing teams in the MOAC. So he was definitely excited. The team was definitely thrilled in what he said, a stunning victory, which definitely it was. But next week, I think they got all the momentum in the world right now. They can go in and definitely get a dub.
Well, the good news for Tigers fans out there is that we've got Madeline Zizzuto covering them next week when they take on Pleasant. So they're not going to have the Hill in the building potentially taking them down. So they've got them River Valley, and then Harding. Is this a team that as of right now, as I look at the playoff picture within Division 4, Region 14, they're sitting at 12 right now, Shane. Can you envision a scenario where they can leapfrog a couple of teams and get themselves into a home playoff scenario, maybe the 7th or 8th spot? Or do the Tigers, are they just kind of in their own head right now? Are they going to be their own worst enemy?
I mean, I definitely feel like it's just the Tigers versus the Tigers, and that's all it's been the last couple weeks. I'm hoping that they can pick it back up and they can sneak into playoffs, but it's definitely going to be really close for them now if they don't end up winning the next week for sure.
Well, the team that knocked them off last week, 49-zip, 6-0 entering the night, they would be 7-0 when it was all said and done. Joshua Banks got an opportunity to head over to Marion tonight and see how the Bob Penn Miller show got it done. It was full steam ahead once again on that Big O train, wasn't it, buddy?
Yeah, Bogdan Miller getting it done like he always does. We'll roll the highlights and I'll walk you through it. Interesting start. Pleasant's going to go up 7-0. Drew Niederhauser's going to take it in from 11 yards out. They stop Miller. First drive, punt, they score.
Ontario slow starts, aren't they?
The very next offensive play for Ontario is a Bogdan Miller to Landon Foltz 52-yard touchdown.
Look at the moves he had on them. He had 3 guys around him who was able to jitterbug his way out of that.
He split the defenders. They force another 3-and-out, and now you're going to see a 59-yard pass from Miller to John Mahon.
He makes it look so easy, too, when he lets that go.
And Mahon had to go up and get that one. It was on his head. And we're going to see more Tigers scoring. It's a 14-7 game going into the second half. Pleasant goes for it on 4th and 1 from their own 40 to start the third quarter, and it leads to a 22-yard Mason Van Tilburg touchdown.
Such a good running back, too. It's such a complimentary piece to Bogdan Miller.
You can't ask for anything else if you're an Ontario Warrior fan, because then your very next drive, Bogdan Miller's going to go in from 16 yards out, and
that's like a walk in the park compared to what he did last week.
His ability to accelerate and find a hole is tremendous, but I think my favorite play of the night is the one that you're getting ready to see.
Yeah.
We talked to him after the game. Punt formation, right? Nobody's expecting what's about to happen. It's a high snap, yeah. He has no pressure, but Bogdan Miller is going to take things into his own hands. He's going to see a whole lane open up, and yeah, it's exactly what we're thinking.
It's what happens when you turn your back on a punt return. The punter's going to see that, especially if he's an athlete that's going to Ohio State, and he's just going to take advantage of that and run all the way to the house.
An 82-yard scamper. Pleasant is going to make it interesting as Niederhauser is going to get his second touchdown of the night from 1 yard out, 35-14. And I tell you what, you've seen the highlights, so you can only expect I am going to have a phenomene in Bogdan Miller.
Yeah.
415 yards of total offense and 4 touchdowns.
I mean, is that anything you've expected? Ontario also, we said Shelby had a big one over River Valley, but Perkins lost to Edison tonight. They're going to stay at the 1 spot, but Ontario and your phenomenon in Bogdan Miller, when we get right here, but they have a chance of, maybe them or Shelby. If they beat Shelby in week 9, that could be enough points that maybe Ontario may be the number 1 team in the region.
It's going to be really fun. Ontario gets Harding next week, and we all know Harding plays up to their competition. That's what they've done for the last couple years. So they're going to play up to the Warriors. If Ontario beats Harding, it's setting up. Everybody's got that date circled on their calendar. October 18th
versus Miller,
at Shelby, that beautiful new facility.
Place is going to be packed.
It's going to be an absolute shootout offensively.
Oh, everybody hopes it will be. Not the coaches. Not the coaches, but everybody else wants it to be a shootout.
I tell you what, though, other than the phenomenon, I think that 82-yard punt, fake punt, is probably going to be a top play nominee as well.
Oh, it has to be. I mean, for the brand. It is. He is the quarterback. He's an athlete, but he's a punter here, and that should be a for the brand moment. And if you look at the receiving team's line, they turn their back right there, and that is the biggest no-no you could have, because if you have somebody like Bogdan Miller back there, he's going to take advantage, like I said, of that, and he's going to take it 82 yards to the house, and then watch this little stutter. Yeet! Right into the end zone.
The balance, the agility, the acceleration that he has is just unmatched, even in the MOAC. We talk about it all the time. There's a reason he's going to The Ohio State University to play wide receiver. There's a reason he's a 3-star athlete, and he's the 21st ranked player in the state of Ohio.
Yeah, and like Brian mentioned, a lot of still undefeated teams coming in as we take a look at the stats and bring Mr. Skowronski back in. But Ski, it's still 1 and 2, Shelby and Ontario at the top of the MOAC standings. River Valley, tough loss, dropped down, but it's starting to look like, as you guys at least expected, you and Andy early on, it's going to be these 2 teams.
The Whippets, we're going to see them live and free next week. They're on the road at Clear Fork, who, congratulations, kudos to them. They picked up their first MOAC win tonight. Then it sets up that crazy Week 9 matchup where they are going to host Ontario. Everyone's looking forward to that. The anticipation on paper with Marion Harding coming up next on the schedule for the Warriors, and that's over at NIST Stadium, is that they both will be 8-0, and that's what's going to determine who wins the conference, just like it did last year when those 2 teams had to split. At the end of the year for Ontario, they get Highland, as mentioned, and then for Shelby at Pleasant in week number 10. So the future all rests, we think, on that Week 9 matchup, the head-to-head, and that's what makes this sport so fun in this conference, so much fun.
And not only that, Ski, that could be 2 top 5 teams in the state polls in Division 3 as well. I'm going to be interested to see how many major outlets want to stream that game from maybe the Columbus or the Cleveland area. Well, it's to be announced coming up what they do there, but not only is this already getting the attention of North Central Ohio, but that might be a state game of the week coming up with 2 very premier quarterbacks.
You got to love what you've seen from Braden DeVito so far this year, too.
Huge numbers.
And so the question marks for both of these teams, they have been answered in just they put all of that to bed. You know, who are going to be the weapons that these 2 amazing quarterbacks are going to give it to? Ontario's answered that. They've got dudes all over the place. And now that they're this far into the season and they're comfortable, we see they're pretty nasty in the trenches too. Yeah. Aren't they, Mr. Banks? This Ontario team, I think maybe a little bit more finesse last year because they had so many dudes they could sprinkle it around to on the outside. It looks like they're winning up front a lot in those battles so far this season.
Yeah, physicality is definitely the name of their game this year. Their run game has been phenomenal. Mason Van Tilburg, one of the leading rushers in the MOAC. He goes for 65 yards tonight. Their balance is what's most important. Harding shut down the run in the first half. They said, okay, we're going to throw it for 160 yards by halftime, and then we're going to run it for 180 yards in the second half.
Yeah. If I may pose a question to you guys real quick. Perkins stays at number 1 despite losing to Edison tonight. We saw them against St. Paul. Edison is a very good team. They're 7-0. But Shelby, Ontario, 2-3. Who would be the best bet to go up against a Perkins in the playoffs? Maybe for a regional championship if we get to that part. Ski?
If I had to choose right now, I would take Ontario because Bodpen is just, it looks like a little bit different. It certainly feels like it's when you've got your dad in the backyard and a bunch of eighth graders around just all trying to tackle him, and you just can't.
Yeah.
He's just that type of a freak. Braden DeVito is an awesome quarterback. He's got a few more weapons, but the one big thoroughbred that we have going right now out of those two obviously is Bodpen. That's why the Buckeyes have invited him to come play at the next level for them. So I would take the Warriors, plus what they did in the trenches tonight. I've seen the highlights over the last couple of weeks, and I'm very impressed with what they're doing. And then defensively, too, they're no slouch. I mean, you saw what they did tonight against Pleasant, holding them to basically one score. They get the garbage time score at the end of the game. So I think the Warriors are the real deal.
Sticking with Bodpen, you saw him against Columbian in that playoff game that the shootout early they lost. How much more improved is he even from that moment at the end of the season last year?
I think it's just growth, going from junior to senior year and his ability to read a defense now. Last year it was more he was staring guys down and he wanted to run the football. He's an athlete. Now I seen multiple times tonight where he sat in the pocket and found an open receiver over the middle where he very easily could have scrambled for 20, 25 yards. He waited, made the correct throw. He did throw one pick tonight, but that's expected. I mean, you're never going to, other than A.J. Bauer, who we see it from almost every week, you're not going to see very many 13 for 13, 14 for 14 performances in high school football.
No. Yeah. It's a party in Ontario, and I think, Ski, we have a party coming up, right?
Yeah, that's right, guys. I hope that you saved room for dessert because even though the main course, it's all been devoured, we still got a Jardy party coming up. Yeah, there he is. A good look. We'll be doing that next.
You have better things to do than to job hunt or scramble to find your next great hire. So let Spherion do it. We say local is our superpower because we live and work where you live and work. We know the Mid-Ohio job market, and we're locally owned. So you won't find a partner who's more engaged and literally invested in your success. If you're ready for something better, start with Spherion. Visit us online at midohiojobs.net or call 419-747-7479.
More than Crown, we are the real people behind Crown CDJR of Dublin. Every member of our sales team is dedicated to providing you an excellent customer experience.
Find the right vehicle for you and your lifestyle. Is a Crown Chrysler Jeep Dodge Ram today, the better way to buy.
Instead of paying for some big-name spokesperson, Kasasa Checking gives that money back to you in cash rewards. In fact, you just bought me this cup of coffee. See how that works? Amazing! Free checking, cash rewards. Take back banking with Kasasa.
Welcome to Richland County's first artificial intelligence ATM. If you car dance to the song you're listening to now, I will give you $50. See, that's something an ATM can never do.
Oh my gosh, are you serious?
Oh, we're serious.
Gosh, that's awesome. Thank you.
Thank you. We hope your day is a little bit better today.
Yes, thank you.
It's that part of the show where you turn up the volume. You're allowed to jump on the bed and get things going. It's time for a Jardy party. Just make sure that you bring your mask. I know that you've been kind of like coughing up a lung and sleeping a lot right now, bro. How you feeling, Andy? All those concerts caught up to you, huh?
I think the Jardy party went a little too hard last week. We ended up contracting COVID.
It's bound to happen, but at least you're in the
sure
sanctity
is.
of your home, man. Like you can get yourself infected, right? You'd be all fine.
Yeah, I slept from Sunday to Wednesday. Like, that's not an exaggeration. There was like a 72-hour window where I slept for 60 hours. It was unreal, the amount of fatigue that I had. Still a little stuffy and whatnot, but we're through the worst of it now, so thank God.
You know who else has been sleeping a lot? It seems like Marion Local's opponents. Anytime the Flyers go head-to-head with somebody, they don't seem to show up offensively. What happened tonight?
Yeah, well, of course, we have to start things off with Marion Local, who once again won in just dominating fashion. Their winning streak has now reached 55 after a 62-0 win tonight over Fort Recovery. They will need all of the recovery after that one. This is the third longest winning streak now, by the way, in OHSAA history. 55 straight for Marion Local. And it seems every week we have head coaches winning milestone games, and this week was no different, as the head coach of Hopewell Loudon, Brian Colatruglio, that's really fun to say,
Love it.
gets career win number 200. They won 56-0 over Willard, so congratulations to Coach Colatruglio. Go ahead and say it, Colatruglio. It's just fun.
Colatruglio.
Yep.
Beautiful, everyone. And then you guys talked about the game a little bit. Edison and Perkins playing tonight. Two unbeaten teams, non-conference game, both ranked in the top 5. And Edison gets the 1-point win, 15-14. They stormed the field. Edison went for 2, down 1 to pull off the win. And now the Perkins loss, we talked about it a little bit. Does it open the door for Ontario or Shelby to potentially steal that number 1 overall seed in D4 Region 14? That we shall wait to see. And then all of our unbeatens stayed unbeaten again. Northmore, Shelby, Ontario, Hillsdale, Ashland, and Monroeville are all now 7-0. And unless they play each other, like Shelby and Ontario, I think they're all going to remain unbeaten.
Ooh, that's your bold prediction, huh? Is that we will see, of those 6, we'll see 5 10-0 teams when the calendar is done for the regular season?
I think so. I don't think Northmore's getting beat by anyone. I don't think... I mean, Monroeville, St. Paul, maybe, but St. Paul, like, it's 2 steps forward, 3 steps back with them, it feels like this year. It's anytime they turn the corner, they come back and, like, lay an egg. So Monroeville has just, like, consistently dominated this year. Ashland, I don't know the rest of their schedule.
That comes up, I believe, week 10.
Lexington is hot right now. That's right. Lex now with 4 straight wins. Yeah, that Ashland, that'll be a tricky one too, but I'm gonna stick with it. I think outside of the loser of Shelby, Ontario, they're all going undefeated.
So you're taking Hillsdale over Norway in week 10, buddy. That's gonna be a monster of a matchup.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah, why not?
All right, Andy. So we know about all the big notes from around the state, but you know what time it is. Let's get dandy.
Oh, I could still do this. Yeah. It's time now for Andy's Dandies, Week 7 top performances. Starting it off with Shelby's Braden DeVito. I mean, my goodness. 7 of the 8 touchdowns tonight he was involved with. Insane. What a win over River Valley. Interesting, too, how I know Ontario's kind of had slow starts, too, but, like, Shelby goes down early, and it's like, oh, are we going to, like, see one of these 2 get tripped up? And no, not the case at all. So kudos to Braden DeVito for his performance. Northmore's offensive line. Travis, I saw the post-game interview, but A.J. Bauer bringing up his whole entire O-line was really cool to see, and you got to give him credit. He went 12 of 12, threw for over 330 yards and 4 touchdowns, but it's all because he had time to do it with that offensive line up front.
And also shout out Ryan Lowry. It's his birthday today.
Oh, there you go. Happy birthday. Hillsdale's Brock Bauer, 2 interceptions, including a pick 6 in their big win over Waynedale. And then Ashland's Nathan Bernhard involved in all 5 touchdowns for the Arrows as they just destroyed Mansfield Senior tonight, 35-3. He had touchdown runs of 91 and 55 yards.
Yeah, I heard he ran all over them following the Tigers actually went up 3-0 in that game.
Yeah.
And then Bernhardt decided, I'll take it from here.
Yep. Yeah. We saw a couple teams get down early, and it didn't matter. And that's it. Those are my dandies.
You liar. How about Monroeville's Evan Benford? Don't you love what he did?
Oh my gosh. You're right. I was like, why are we still here? My note cut off and went to a different page. Evan Benford, how could I forget you, of Monroeville. 3 rushing touchdowns, and the Eagles had no problems with the Western Reserve team that was 5-1. Like, this was kind of
Beat St.
another
Paul.
test for Monroeville. Where we're... What's that?
They beat St. Paul 28-6.
Western Reserve? Yeah. Yeah, I know. This was a good Western Reserve team, and Monroeville did not have any problems with them tonight, so... Yeah, congrats to Evan Benford.
The cream of the Firelands Conference, Andy. So since I got the whole gang with me, why don't we check out those standings right now in the Firelands? It seems to be kind of a one-team race right now. We know that we've got that huge Week 10 showdown. St. Paul is heading over to Monroeville.
Look
to
at the
take on the
Cougars.
Eagles. Cougars? Hey, I told you they'd have something to say when the conversation was all said and done. But it clearly feels like at 7-0, I mean, the numbers don't lie, and then they just beat the brakes off the number 2 team in the league. I mean, the Eagles are the real deal.
Yeah, they are, and really tough loss tonight, too, for South Central against Mapleton. I don't know if it was determined by a safety, but it was tied, I feel like, 27-27, and then the final score ended up being 29-27. That's the South Central team. I saw them last week. They're still trying to build things, and that was a chance for them to kind of really get a big win. I don't know how that game ended up. I mean, I saw the score, but I don't know if it was a safety that ultimately determined the outcome. But that's a tough loss for the Trojans as they try to build something.
Andy, I know you've seen Hillsdale last week, and by the way, Jonathan Langdon said he missed you at Hillsdale this week, says hello. Monroeville and Hillsdale, both in the same region.
Ooh.
What a matchup that could be in a regional semifinal or whatnot.
Yeah, that would be a lot of fun. Now you got me like thinking. Yeah, that's I don't know who I would take in that one as of today. Maybe Hillsdale, just because I've seen them.
Yeah,
I haven't seen the Eagles yet. I just love the collection of talent that the Falcons have, and they're going to be a little bit more tested. I think that the schedule a little bit more challenging in that WCAL than it is the Firelands this year, which really is pretty weak if you just saw that the number 2 team can't even put up a point against the number 1. So while we all feel like Monroeville's a really good team, probably not getting a great look over these last 7 weeks now that they're into the conference.
True.
I'll take a look. What's even coming up here for Monroeville? So at Mapleton, at Plymouth, when can determine that before they get to St. Paul. So looks like it's all laid out there. No matter what, they'll at least get a share of the crown.
And they get St. Paul at home, too.
Yeah, it's a 10-0 season.
Yeah.
All right, so we also saw Ashland remain undefeated so far on the season. We'll show you how the OCC is shaking out up to this point, and there's Lexington right on their heels. The last 2 remaining undefeateds in the league, and big kudos to Big Lex, who, you know, I saw them not look very good on the road against Clear Fork. Since then, they've turned the corner, 4 consecutive wins, and the team that many around the area thought had the best collection of talent in the OCC, they're starting to show it since they're playing against these conference foes. So I really do want to take my hat off to Lexington for making it happen.
And they're at New Philly next week. That's a big matchup.
Yeah, I mean, when is the last time you saw the bottom of the OCC look like that, with Mansfield Senior and Worcester both bringing up the rear? Like, that is we are in uncharted territory here in the OCC with those 2 at the bottom.
Ashland does have West Holmes on the road next week, and I feel like the Knights pretty solid team from top to bottom. They had a 3-game win streak snap tonight, and they took Lexington to the brink on the road tonight. 19-13, that final score there, so less than a 1-score game. So Ashland's got them. Then they get Worcester on the road, and they'll finish up at home against Lexington. Could be for all the marbles when you look at the Minutemen, New Philly, like Trav said, and then they get Madison after that, who's just 1-for so far on the year. So everything's kind of shaping up right now in the OCC. Also, you see there in the Firelands Conference, we feel like the WCAL could come down to the very last week, and then in the MOAC, week number 9. So we're getting some pretty cool storylines written here in the second half of our conference season.
Yeah, absolutely. It definitely is not going to be an anticlimactic finish to the regular season. I mean, these last couple weeks are shaping up to be really special. And just some of these matchups that you're potentially going to get once you get into the playoffs too. Like we are just now getting, I think, to like the best part of the season because you're really starting to see the separation.
The Nardi-Berardi
here.
time.
Yeah, like Travis has got to get into his bunker, get him his case of water, get him his provisions so that he can, be hunkered down and give us everything that we need for playoff time. So it's the best time of the year.
Yeah, we look forward to putting Travis in that bunker and releasing you from yours, Andy. So make sure that you're chugging a whole bunch of water too. I know maybe you were, chugging back on Grandpa's old cough medicine this past week, if you know what I mean. And then the week before, out at all the concerts. So do get well, sir, so we can get back to partying proper.
Oh yeah, I'll be good to go next week. I'll be good to go.
The hair was on point tonight. All right, Mr. Andy Jardy, everybody, with your party yet again here on the Pigskin. But that's it, guys. Show's over. We showed all the highlights. We went through all the conferences. I don't know what else to do but shut the laptop and tell you sweet dreams. We'll see you back here, same time, same place for a Week 8 edition. Live streams tomorrow, too. Lots of them.